It's been a pretty quiet window, Dan, by their standards. Is that all about to change?
Well, what they want in this window is a centre-back who can step right into their starting 11. Of course, Levi Corwell injured essentially for the rest of the season. And Tosin also looked like he picked up a hamstring injury on the weekend as well. We'll see how long he remains out. So Chelsea are actually exploring and remain in talks with Rennes over Jacquet. Now, he's 20 years old. Rennes value him for around £56 million, and I've been speaking about him in the last few months. Someone Manchester United are also monitoring as well, and some of the biggest clubs around Europe are all seeing how he develops in Liga. Now, Chelsea, Liam Rosenior knows him, of course, being at Strasbourg, playing against Rennes. Whether he is the right person to come into the team, we will see, because he still feels a little bit raw. Bournemouth's Marcos Senesi could be another option. He's out of contract in the summer. Chelsea also aware of that. But for now, it could look like Jacquet could be their number one target for this window.
Is this a bit of a problem area for Chelsea centre-backs, Jeff? Because they've signed so many, and I guess a lot of Chelsea fans would say the ones we've brought in are only maybe marginally better than what we've had before. They desperately need to find their partnership, don't they? The two that work going forward.
Yeah, it's difficult when, like you said, you've talked about, and they have brought in a good few centre-backs over the last couple of years, and whether it's not worked out or the players haven't been ready, but it seems like they want to find someone who's ready to go now. I think maybe it's a little bit of a punt, getting him. I think he's a 20-year-old. Is he ready to go straight in? Who knows? But I suppose Liam, who's managed in that league, has seen a lot more of him than me. Definitely in any way.
But that's interesting, isn't it, even that conversation? Because as we've been led to believe with Chelsea, it's, as you just mentioned, with bigger clubs, they sign the players, the head coach coaches them, but they would surely be in communication with Liam here, because he was so keen on him at Strasbourg, part of Blue Co, basically Chelsea.
Yeah, so like I said, he'll know all about him, and I'm sure he's saying yes or no if he thinks he can go straight in and improve Chelsea, because him selfishly as a manager, he wants all the best players in to help him do as well as he can this season.
Yeah.
What about just looking at Liam there and wondering what conversation he has had with Raheem Sterling, Dan? Because when he came in, he said it's basically a clean slate for everyone. There's no such thing as bomb squads under Liam Rosenior. He hasn't played for Chelsea since May 2024, was on loan at Arsenal last season. One goal in something like 29 appearances. That was against League One Bolton in the League Cup. What about his future? Could he move on this window? We know he's not going to walk away from a huge contract, is he, at Stamford Bridge?
No, absolutely. And what our colleagues in Sky Italy are reporting is that Napoli, of course led by former Chelsea manager Antonio Conte, are exploring a potential loan option for Sterling in this window. Now, we've also been reporting throughout this window that, from our understanding, Sterling would love to stay in London. And, Fulham, for example, would be a club he would be interested in joining. Now, we don't know from the other side whether Fulham would explore that deal, because, as you mentioned, he'll be on quite extensive wages. And how will they negotiate that with Chelsea? As you mentioned, again, we're kind of talking about James Ward-Prowse. It's just incredibly sad for Raheem Sterling that over the last 2 years or so, he's just not played a whole of a lot of football. But you just think for a Premier League team especially, he would be a great signing. I mean, Napoli makes sense because there's so many former Premier League players there. You look at Rasmus Højlund, Kevin De Bruyne is injured at the moment, but Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore. So it clearly seems a good safe haven for players who need a move.
Chelsea, Dan and Jeff, might argue that, all right, we've given Raheem Sterling opportunities to play football. We let him go on loan to Arsenal. We've offered him other loan deals, and perhaps, as you said, because he wants to stay in London, there are only a few clubs that would entertain that. Does it come down to where his motivation is right now? Because understandably, you're not going to walk away from figures that have been banded around £25 million left on his contract or a number near that. But he's 31, and it's now down to him to continue as a professional footballer or not, because he could easily just hang up his boots, couldn't he?
Yeah, it's quite ironic. I was around 31 when I finished. So.
Did you have £25 million worth?
No, I didn't. I wish. But no, I think for him it is, if he still has that hunger to go and play. I know he's saying he wants to stay in London, but there's not that many options for him. What is there? Fulham, West Ham, pretty much who he can go to, and it depends if the clubs want you there or what they'll have to pay.
Can he still offer clubs like Fulham and West Ham something? And I mean, you say West Ham, that's a completely different challenge to Fulham, who are not in that scrap down the bottom.
Yeah, I think the main thing is whatever club he goes to, with how little he's played he's not going to be ready to go straight into the starting team. So it has to be a club who will give him time, maybe a couple of weeks to come off the bench, train and get ready to play. But you look at his career, he's been a fantastic player and able to help any club he goes to.
I'm sure he must look at some of his former England teammates, Liverpool, Manchester City teammates, that look at, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, all these different players who've made other moves around the league, who are still playing at such a high level, who we hear from all their managers talk so highly about what they bring to a changing room. I think Raheem Sterling, it just depends on his motivation at this point in his career, but there's no doubt he would offer so much experience, still so much to offer in a footballing sense as well.
Yeah.
Back in this window, if possible. We've been talking about it for the last week or so, haven't we, Carve? Jeremy Jacquet, the young 20-year-old centre-back, currently at Rennes. Chelsea are in talks with Rennes. However, this is not a straightforward deal to do because Rennes want to capitalise on what they see as their biggest asset. There are talks around the fee they want of being 65 million euros. Chelsea want to pay something like 45 million euros. So there's a little bit of a gap in the valuation there. But there is interest from Bayern Munich and other sides around Europe as well because he really is top class. You speak to Liam Rosenior, who is one of the best defenders, best young defender in Ligue 1 right now. He'd say Jeremy Jacquet, and that's why Chelsea are trying to sign him.
Yeah, but hold on. That's another 20-year-old centre-back. How many do they need, Carve?
I was actually at Stamford Bridge on Saturday and I was sitting behind the Chelsea bench and they had something like £100 million worth of centre-backs on the substitutes bench. And, they've got a lot of centre-backs. They've also got a lot of centre-backs out on loan. I think one of the players who's going to be playing for Borussia Dortmund tomorrow night against Spurs is out on loan from Chelsea. Also, one of the centre-backs who played for Senegal in the AFCON final is out, I think, at Strasbourg from Chelsea as well. These are all the centre-back that Chelsea have signed under their American owners.
So why buy another one? How many do you need?
Well, Levi Colwill is out probably for the whole season with an ACL injury. Tosin, I think, picked up a hamstring injury on Saturday as well. They feel that they need to sign another centre-back and they feel that this Jeremy Jacquet is an exceptional player. But there have been reports that, he's been watched by Arsenal, Liverpool, Bayern Munich. They feel that he is the real deal.
But he's 20, Carve, and they've got lots of 20-year-olds. Chelsea fans, as we said last week on the transfer show, they want something now. They don't want to wait in the future for these guys to develop. They want something now. Why didn't they just buy Mark Gay for £20 million?
Who knows? Maybe they tried. Maybe they tried and he said that he didn't want to go to Chelsea. Or maybe they looked at him and thought he's not right for us. Because he was at Chelsea before. I think they're getting a percentage of the transfer fee that Manchester City are paying for him as well. Do you know what? I've just got to throw the towel in and say, Mike, you got a good point. you make the point that a lot of Chelsea fans make. They say, why do we keep signing young players when we should be signing some experienced players as well? To be fair to Chelsea, if I may just try to defend them as well, I think what they would say is we do try to sign more experienced players as well. I think Mark has been talking about the fact today that they're interested, for instance, in signing Marcos Senesi from Bournemouth, who's 28 years old. So they do try. It's not a case of they just look at players and go, right, you're over 20, we're not interested at all.
Senesi, does he fit the profile?
It does fit the profile in the fact that he's a Premier League proven player. 28 years old, a bit old for Chelsea, but they tried to sign Virgil van Dijk if he'd become a free agent as well. And also I think the other thing is that Chelsea have a very sort of strict wage structure that they like to try and put in place so the spending doesn't get out of control, so therefore they don't go down that road. Marcos Senesi is attracting a lot of interest from a number of sides, both in Europe, Serie A, La Liga and the Premier League. A couple of sides have actually approached Bournemouth in this January transfer window to try and sign Marcos Senesi because he's a very similar situation to Mark Gay. He's out of contract in the summer. Can we just put something on the table that tempts Bournemouth into selling? They are absolutely under no circumstances interested in selling one of their key centre-backs. He cost them just £12 million, signed a 4-year deal when he arrived, and it's going to see itself out. And therefore, he'll probably leave on a free in the summer, with a number of high-profile sides interested in him. Chelsea were one of them, but I don't think that's a deal that's going to happen in this window.
Senesi starts for Bournemouth against Brighton at the Amex tonight. Raheem Sterling, what is going on with him?
Well, this is all just from Sky Italy. Sky Italy believe that Napoli are looking at the possibility of signing Raheem Sterling.
I thought he wanted to stay in London.
I'm not sure. I think ideally he'd like to stay in London. But look, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. First of all, somebody needs to contact his representatives and say Napoli are definitely interested in signing him. This is the potential deal that's on the table. Everybody knows the backstory to this. He's been frozen out at Chelsea. But ideally, I think he would like a permanent move. But Sky Italy believe that Napoli want to sign a winger this window, and one of their potential targets is Raheem Sterling. That's as far as it's got.
OK. Been linked with Fulham. Could that happen?
I think he gets linked with Fulham every